Hi guys. Welcome back, this is the Movie Caps. Before we start, warning. Spoilers ahead. Do you guys believe that aliens are real and one day they'll come to invade Earth? A government facility in New Mexico identifies an extraterrestrial signal that comes from an object near the moon. At Space Command in the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense is contacted about this phenomenon. The object is approximately the size of a quarter of Earth's moon. He then contacts the president, who just wakes up next to her daughter. David, a genius now working for a television cable company, is playing chess with his dad. He still wears his wedding ring even though he has been divorced for years. He then goes to the office to find all news channels' signals have been inexplicably scrambled. David, with his knowledge, deduces that the signal scrambling is not his fault and figures out a way to fix it. Meanwhile, at Imperial Valley, California, Russ, a drunk pilot, waters the wrong field. Angry landowners are confronting his children, Miguel, Lisa, and Troy, even though they despise their own dad. At the White House, Connie, the director of communications, is busy keeping up with the press. The president and other important figures are discussing their stance. Lately, the thing has orbited the Earth and released around 3 dozen smaller spacecraft. To make things worse, it is the weekend and almost the 4th of July, so many military officers are on leave, thus counterattacks are not yet ready. Alien attacks have been reported in Iraq, the Persian Gulf, and California. Many civilians and military officers die because of unexplained phenomena. The president initiates emergency protocol but refuses to evacuate himself. He tells Connie to create an emergency broadcast telling people not to panic. Meanwhile, Russ is drinking at a local bar when people come to mock him for his extraterrestrial experience. He claims to be abducted by aliens years ago, and the resulting trauma caused him to be a drunk and eccentric person. The alien spacecraft are stationed above New York, Washington, D.C., and California, causing earthquakes. Captain Hiller, a U.S. Marine pilot, is sleeping with Jasmine, his girlfriend, when the earthquake happens but thinks it is nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, David is too busy programming the signal that he does not realize the imminent threat. His whole office evacuates to an old bomb shelter. Hiller wakes up to see his neighbors frantically packing up to leave the city, and finally realizes the threat. David sees the spacecraft in news, then deduces the signal is a synchronized countdown for the aliens to position themselves before they simultaneously attack Earth. He contacts his ex-wife Connie, who is accompanying the president to give a speech at the White House. He tells her to get out of there, but she hangs up. Hiller is called to report to the El Toro base, canceling his leave and disappointing Jasmine. The president calls his wife and tells her that he does not want her in any of the major cities. David meets his dad and asks him to drive to Washington. He hopes to help Connie and the government's defense against the aliens. His dad discourages him by telling the government knows what they are doing. Russ' children want to leave town without him. Hiller reports back to El Toro and Jimmy, his wingman, discovers his planned wedding ring. Meanwhile, Jasmine still works as a stripper, but the situation on the news is getting worse, so she decides to leave town. David and his dad, Julius, arrive at the White House. He uses Connie's phone signal to triangulate her exact position. Connie takes the president to meet David, despite their past conflict. David tells him that the aliens are using Earth's satellite systems to create a countdown. As they speak, the Pentagon launches a retro helicopter with a visual communications device to establish interaction with the aliens. After the president observes the helicopter being shot down and learns about the countdown from David, he commences nationwide evacuation. The First Lady is in Los Angeles while a few weird people beg at the rooftops to be taken by these aliens. The aliens' countdown stops while David and the president are on Air Force One. Los Angeles, New York, and Washington are attacked simultaneously. Jasmine survives by sheltering herself with Dylan and Boomer, their dog, at a tunnel inspection alcove. Unfortunately, the First Lady's helicopter never makes it to the assembly point. The president mourns the death of his people, especially because his wife, vice president, and chiefs did not survive. Captain Hiller and his squad prepare to counterattack. They discover that the alien spacecraft and its fighters have a force field that protects them from the military's missiles. The military sustains heavy losses, including Jimmy, but Hiller survives the attack and defeats one of the aliens after making it maneuvers and crashes into a canyon. Meanwhile, Jasmine retrieves a truck from the city ruins. The defense secretary wants to launch a nuclear attack, but the president resists, thinking it will only cause more unnecessary deaths. People aboard Air Force One then have different opinions on how to solve the crisis. Julius releases his anger to the government, telling them that they should be responsible for the Area 51 tragedy in the 1950s. The president calms him by saying that there is no alien conspiracy at Area 51, but the defense secretary defies the statement and brings the plane there. Jasmine helps wounded survivors get out of the city to El Toro. Hiller drags the alien's corpse through the desert while he bumps into caravans of fleeing citizens. He asks them to be delivered to a nearby airbase that is not on the map, which is Area 51, where the president's team is also heading. They learn from Dr. Oken, the head of the research facility, that a crash in the 1950s resulted in 3 dead aliens and a retrieved spaceship. They have learned many things about the species but could not figure out its advanced technology. David helps them by figuring out the aliens' communication signal while they suddenly receive news that an injured species has been brought to the facility by Hiller. Hiller also arrives with groups of survivors. He learns that El Toro is destroyed, thinking Jasmine did not survive. Jasmine also arrives at El Toro's ruins and thinks he did not survive. She and the survivors, one of them turns out to be the First Lady, make camp for the night. Dr. Oken dissects the injured alien, but it comes alive and attacks him and his team. The president watches through a glass, where the alien establishes a telepathic connection with him before it is killed by the Secret Service. The president learns that it wants to annihilate all life on Earth, thus he authorizes nuclear attacks. The first target is Houston, Texas. Meanwhile, Hiller steals a helicopter to find Jasmine in El Toro. He is able to evacuate Jasmine and other survivors, bringing them to Area 51. The nuclear attack turns out to be unsuccessful since a force field still protects the alien ship. The president aborts all nuclear attacks, which is disapproved by his defense secretary. However, he is immediately fired. The president regroups with his badly injured wife at Area 51. Doctors tell him she has not much hope to survive, adding to his sadness. Meanwhile, frustrated David gets drunk and destroys things at the lab. Julius comes to him, telling him to look after his own health or he would catch a virus. The phrase inspires David, as he is suddenly eager to demonstrate something. He shows that he can upload a computer virus through the aliens' communication signal that will destroy their force fields and enable a massive counterattack. To do that, he must log onto the mothership's communication network so the virus will be transmitted to the smaller ships. People are being hesitant about the plan, but Hiller volunteers to pilot the 1950s alien ship that will bring him and David to the mothership. Both Jasmine and Connie are anxious about the decision. Hiller marries Jasmine before he leaves for the mission, with David and Connie as the witnesses. Connie realizes David never takes his wedding ring and reconciles with him. Meanwhile, General Gray of the U.S. Army organizes a worldwide counterattack effort. The Army spreads the news using Morse code, and surviving armies all over the world are eager to join. The president, an Air Force pilot himself, volunteers to lead a squad as pilots are scarce. Everyone capable of flying planes is being summoned to Area 51, including Russ. He is proud to serve the nation and avenge what those aliens did to him years ago. Hiller and David leave the base after adapting themselves to the alien spaceship situation. They shortly arrive at the mothership. It then takes control of their ship, so they glide through the mothership on autopilot. They witness millions of aliens preparing for an invasion before the ship is finally docked. David successfully uploads the virus. After that, General Gray tells the president to launch a strike. The first missile does not come through, but the second is a direct hit, so the squad becomes hopeful to attack more and fight off the alien fighters. The spacecraft they are attacking is about to fire its primary weapon, but they are almost out of missiles. Suddenly, Russ claims that he still has one missile left, so the president and his team clear a way for him to reach the main weapon. However, Russ' missile stuck, and, thinking about his children, he sacrifices himself by crashing his plane into the weapon just before it fires. The spacecraft is completely destroyed. Luckily for the president, he can get away safely. After uploading the virus, Hiller and David should release a nuclear missile and get out of the alien mothership, but they are stuck at the parking dock. The aliens become suspicious of their ship, so they surround it. Thinking they have lost, they lit their victory cigars while activating the nuclear missile. After it is ejected, their ship's dock suddenly breaks loose. They now have 30 seconds to get out of the ship just before the nuclear explodes. Hiller's skills enable them to escape just before the mothership becomes ruins. Meanwhile, on the ground, the president's squad is back at Area 51 and receives a joyful welcome from all citizens. However, Jasmine and Connie almost lose hope when they learn that Hiller and David's ship have lost contact. Suddenly, a signal emerges in the middle of a desert. They quickly head there to find David and Hiller surviving the mission. They embrace each other's families and celebrate Independence Day. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.